totalitarianism is basically when a government is pursuing absolute control over the state. So it's about absolute control, which includes psychological control. So all you need to know about totalitarianism is it's a government obsessed by power who wants absolute, uncontested control. No one's allowed to challenge me. What's the most important thing in your essays when you refer to context? To be what? So you need to be specific. Don't just say post-war. Post-war means after the Second World War. That's not telling us anything. You need to say what it was about the post-war world. You need to say what it was about Stalinism. So Stalinism was defined by collectivism. Does everyone understand what collectivism means?
No.
It means we are defined by our status as a group. We are all one. We are not individuals. So it's a system of society where everyone is defined as one thing. Obviously, there is no individuality. What's the Great Purge, 1936 to 1938? What's the best way to avoid anyone challenging you? Kill them all off. So he literally killed off like 1 million people in what's called the Great Purge. So do you see how good that would sound in an essay? Can you kind of imagine, rather than saying post-war world or Soviet Union, you say the Great Purge. The Great Purge was actually a real life thing that happened where Stalin killed off anyone who was going to oppose him. Who was his biggest political opponent? His first name's Leon. Trotsky, nice. So everyone write down Trotsky. That's Trotsky. So he got killed off. He actually managed to escape to Mexico City and was murdered there, though, by a spy. He went off to Mexico City, you know, this is back then, and was killed. He was found. But what he was doing is he was a political writer and a commentator, and he was a big politician as well at the time, but he opposed Stalin, and he was writing all of these books and papers that basically exposed what Stalin was doing. So obviously Stalin would have hated that. So what did he do? He killed him off, and he killed off all these other people. And what did Stalin actually do as well? He censored the censorship point there of historical records and photographs. There's actual records now of when Stalin was photoshopping. You know, obviously photoshopping's it's very easy to do these days, but to do it back then in the 1930s and 40s was kind of revolutionary, right? But he would have a team of people photoshopping the records and doing what happens in 1984. So he was actually cropping out people's faces in photos and eradicating them from the history books. So anyone who contested him, people who were really close to him, he would basically kill off and then manipulate historical documents, just like Winston does at the Ministry of Truth, and he would create new realities so people didn't know about these people. There's what's the Gulag? Gulag. They were forced labor camps, concentration camps. Where else do you remember concentration camps in history? Nazi Germany. So people don't realize Stalin was doing the same thing. In fact, according to a lot of records, Stalin killed more people than Hitler. But usually people think about Hitler as the embodiment of evil, right? I think in terms of direct murders from Stalin that directly authorized, it's something like 6 to 8 million, and then there's 20 million deaths associated with him. Gulag was these forced labor concentration camps, and they're referred to in the actual novel. So that ties to an aspect of the genre we didn't actually mention, which is realism. There are actually some elements of reality in the text so that people know that, hey, this is our context. This is kind of like the world we're living in. Do you guys see that? So the stylistic element there is realism. So the novel itself on some of these pages includes references to Germany and to concentration camps. All right, New Soviet Man. Who's the New Soviet Man? The New Soviet Man was the kind of model citizen of the Soviet Union who dedicated his entire life to the party, right? The party, the government. So that was actually a term that was going around. And the New Soviet Woman was this dynamic woman who was a little bit more masculine than feminine, in that she would do her work for the party as well, for the state, and she would also be a mother, but it was all kind of mechanical. It wasn't like for love, it was more like this is how we raise the ideal society. Okay, so these are good terms that you can use where they're relevant.